All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating lecture from way back in 1987 that breaks down the principles of what makes for true sustainable development. It's all about why so many big, grand plans fail and what it actually takes to build something that lasts, whether that's in your own life or in society as a whole.
So let's kick things off with a question that I think we can all relate to. Why is it that so many ambitious projects, personal goals, new ventures, even big social movements, they start with all this incredible fire and passion, but then they just fall apart? We've all seen it happen, right?
Well, the lecture just hits the nail on the head with this quote. It says, "The problem is that people often have ideals, but their feet are not on the ground." Think about that. The core issue isn't a bad vision or a lack of passion. No, it's idealism that's completely disconnected from a solid, stable foundation. It's like trying to build a beautiful skyscraper on a patch of sand. It's just not going to work. And that brings us to our first major point here. Before we can even begin to understand how to build something that's meant to last, we first have to get a real grasp on why so many noble efforts, even those with the absolute best intentions, just end up collapsing.
According to the lecture, this is the fundamental mistake we make. We rush out to change the world, to guide other people, to fix all the problems out there. But here's the thing. You can't offer someone a steady hand to hold if you yourself are standing on shaky ground. Establishing yourself, building your own solid foundation, that has to come first.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution? This is where we get to the second part of this whole idea, which introduces a really powerful concept for building that solid foundation. It's something called the middle way.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand what the middle way is and what it isn't. This isn't about compromise. It's not about finding some boring, safe middle ground. A better way to think about it is like driving a car. You're never holding the steering wheel perfectly still, are you? You're always making these tiny little corrections to stay in your lane. That's the middle way. It's an active, dynamic process of constantly steering back to your core path.
And to stay on that path, the speaker warns us about two really destructive emotional extremes that pull us off course. The first is anger. It pops up when the world doesn't do what we want it to, and it traps us completely in our own point of view. The second is jealousy. This happens when we feel like someone else is getting more recognition or value than we are. And this one is so toxic because when we attack that person, we're often attacking the very ideal we want to achieve. We end up just sabotaging our own self-confidence.
Okay, so this idea of dynamic balance sounds good, but how do we actually do it? In our everyday lives? Well, for this, the lecture gives us 3 absolutely brilliant and practical analogies that really make the whole concept stick.
So the first key is all about how we manage our time and energy. The advice here is to dedicate about 80% of your focus to that one central thing that really truly resonates with your soul, your core purpose. But then you use the other 20% for exploring, for having broad life experiences that give you perspective and keep you connected to the world. It's about having both deep focus and a wide perspective.
The second analogy is the iceberg, and this one really shows us where true, unshakable confidence comes from. The world only ever sees the tip of the iceberg, right? The 10% of you that's above the surface, your job, your achievements, but your real strength, your stability, that comes from the massive 90% that's hidden underwater. That's the work you do on yourself in private. That is your real foundation.
And finally, we have the bicycle. Think about it. A bike that's standing still is incredibly unstable. It falls over almost immediately. But the moment you start pedaling, you create forward momentum, and suddenly it's stable. This teaches us that balance isn't something you find by standing still. Real stability is a byproduct of consistent forward motion on your chosen path. You gotta keep pedaling.
So here's the crucial point that ties all of this together. These aren't just tools for your own personal success. The lecture argues that the whole purpose of building this strong, balanced foundation is to be able to serve something that's way bigger than ourselves.
The ultimate message here is a huge shift in perspective. The goal isn't just to master these principles for your own self-realization or personal gain. No, it's to build a self that is so strong, so stable, that you can become an effective vehicle for a higher ideal, for a purpose that is greater than just you.
And that brings us right back, full circle, to this core idea. The work that truly matters is the work that no one else ever sees. It's the quiet, consistent effort of building that vast, hidden foundation. That's the source of all real and all lasting development.
So, this whole explainer really leaves us with one final thought to reflect on. Beyond what the world sees, beyond the daily hustle and all the visible achievements, what are you, personally, building beneath the surface?